Well, hello there. Continuing this series on AI, technology, robots, and so forth. Last Tuesday, I gave you a piece about a robot blessing. The robot would lift its hands up and give you a Bible verse or something, and my personal being offended by that. But I wanted to start with another piece that's a little more, I guess, a little more thoughtful. And then in the coming weeks, we'll get into some more philosophy and thought on AI. I read some disturbing pieces, some encouraging pieces. But anyway, before we really get into the topic, I've been holding on to this one for a while, and I've seen it in several places, so I'm not sure who to give credit to. So I just picked one, and you can see that in the post details, the link. If you Google it, you can find it easily, but I linked to the one that posted the most information about it. So there's a robot that was commissioned by the Guggenheim Museum in 2016. It was called the Guggenheim's first robotic artwork. It was created by two Chinese people. I don't want to butcher their name, so I won't say it, but you can see it in the link. But they named the piece "Can't Help Myself." And I wanted to show a picture of it first. If you go to the link, there's a video that you can watch it in action. And then I'm going to tell you what someone said about it. So here's a link to the piece, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Someone put into a lot of thought and philosophy behind it. So basically the idea of the robot is what it does is it scrapes the hydraulic fluid that you'll see in the ground back towards itself because it needs that to survive. But I want to read you today what somebody wrote about it. No piece of art has ever emotionally affected me the way this robot arm has. It's programmed to try to contain the hydraulic fluid that's constantly leaking out and required to keep itself running. If too much escapes, it will die, so it's desperately trying to pull it back to continue to fight for another day. Saddest part is they gave the robot the ability to do these happy dances to spectators. When the project was first launched, it danced around, spending most of its time interacting with the crowd since it could quickly pull back the small spillage. Many years later, as you see it now in the video, it looks tired and hopeless as there isn't enough time to dance anymore. It now has only enough time to try to keep itself alive as the amount of leaked hydraulic fluid became unmanageable as the spill grew over time. Living its last days in a never-ending cycle between sustaining life and simultaneously bleeding out, figuratively and literally, as its hydraulic fluid was purposely made to look like its actual blood. The robot arm finally ran out of hydraulic fluid in 2019, slowly came to a halt, and died. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the piece. Let me tell you what whose philosophy was about that, and they gave some interpretations of it. And this is the part that I want you to hear today. Someone interpreted that piece this way, and maybe that was the ultimate design of it. It says, the hydraulic fluid in relation to how we kill ourselves, both mentally and physically for money, just in an attempt to sustain life. Of how the system is set up for us to fail on purpose, to essentially enslave us and to steal the best years of our lives to play the game that the richest people of the world have designed. Whoa, it's getting heavy, isn't it? Continues on, how this robs us of our happiness, passion, and our inner peace. How we are slowly drowning with more responsibilities, with more expected of us. Less rewarding payoffs and less free time to enjoy ourselves with as the years go by. How there's really no escaping the system and that we were destined at birth to follow a pretty specific path that was already laid out before us. That part I agree with. How we can give and give and give, and how easily we can be forgotten after we've gone. How we are loved and respected when we are valuable, then one day we aren't any longer and we become a burden. And how our young, free-caring spirit gets stolen from us as we get churned out of the broken system that we are trapped inside of. Can also be seen to represent the human life cycle and the fact that none of us make it out of this world alive. But on the other hand, also can act as a reminder to allow yourself to heal, rest, and love with all your heart. That the endless chase for more isn't necessary in finding your own inner happiness. All that about a robot. Now, I'm glad that there are thinking and thoughtful people in the world, but I really hope that's not who you're following on social media, people that post things like that, because that's a pretty depressing take on a robot. And that type of belief is why we have a mental health crisis in our country. So I want to say to you today, don't buy into that. I understand what the author is saying, but let me give you a different perspective. Yes, you can spend your whole life trying to survive. It can feel wasted and worthless and just futile. But that's not what God intended for you. The author of that other piece said they think it seems like our path has been laid out for us. I could say, how about this? God has a purpose for you. You're familiar with the verse. You've probably heard it, Jeremiah 29:11. God has plans to give you hope in the future, and it's slightly out of context. Jeremiah is talking to the Babylonian exiles there, but it does also apply to you, and I wanted to make sure that that wasn't the only verse we used. So I did a little search on the word purpose in Scripture. And I put more than 20 verse references in these post details so you can read them and be assured that your life doesn't have to be hopeless and meaningless and futile, just trying to survive. In Psalm 57, the psalmist wrote, I cry out to God Most High, who fulfills his purpose for me. This is just one of the verses I gave you, the more than 20. Of course, you've probably also heard Romans 8:28. For those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. So I would challenge you this morning for me that God does have a purpose and a plan for your life, and it does not have to feel meaningless and hopeless and futile. But you can have ultimate direction and hope and joy and realize that every day is a gift. When you have also some of those references talk about Jesus' purpose, and that's how you discover that purpose for your life. So hopefully you can remember that today. In the next few weeks, hopefully you'll learn something about AI, something about yourself maybe, and be reminded that you are valuable and have a purpose. Until the next time, God bless, and I'll see you soon.